What's most important to recognize that I believe is that you need to have a vision of what you want your life to be like without overwhelm. So if you don't have a really clear picture of what you want to be cultivating in your life, it's really hard to get there because you're constantly chasing like one little part. Like, oh, I'm going to be on time, or I'm going to do a little bit less, or I'm going to remember all the stuff I need when I go shopping, or I'm going to food prep. Like you can do these little pieces, but unless you really have that picture of what you want it to all look like, it's really hard to step into it.
Welcome to Heart Parents. Let's connect with our kids and learn together. I'm Carrie. I was a former teacher and speech therapist. I'm also a parent of two spirited, gifted, highly sensitive kids. I was quickly brought to my knees as a parent when I thought that I would see a rosy lens version of parenting just as they present on Instagram, but I quickly learned that's not real life. I will provide real-life experiences and transform them into moments for connections and change for you to use in your house. Hi there, and welcome back. I'm Carrie with Heart to Heart Parents podcast here, and today I have an amazing guest, Miss Tracey Bromley Goodwin here that's with us today. And I have been reading up about her bio. It's been so fun to connect with her. And I love how she bridges this piece of intuition with neuroscience. It's been such an amazing combination. And I love Tracey has a background in ADHD, executive function coaching, and lately she's been working with programs for women who are feeling overwhelmed and giving some coaching ideas and tips. And it's just all these pieces that fit into my puzzle. I know there's probably a lot of mamas out there that it fits into their puzzle as well. Tracey, is there anything else that I missed?
No, just that I'm so excited to be here. And as I mentioned, I just love your heart to heart perspective, and just like really leaning into that heart space is amazing. So I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been so much fun connecting with you recently and following what you're doing with your projects. It's really neat to see so many people out there living passionately and helping all of us mamas and women with our all of our schedules and our overwhelming days
Oh,
that we
I
live.
know.
So I love that you have this program that you're doing for women with our overactive schedules and the busy American or European, any all lifestyle. I feel like it's everywhere nowadays. What do you have any tips for us as we dive in?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to overwhelm, and like you said, overwhelm is everywhere. It's probably the most used word that I've heard for the past 20 years from clients, regardless of age. So it's things I hear from young people, it's things that I hear from people at a completely different stage in life, and that overwhelm, it just ends up bringing about feelings of shame and guilt. And what's most important to recognize that I believe is that you need to have a vision of what you want your life to be like without overwhelm. So if you don't have a really clear picture of what you want to be cultivating in your life, it's really hard to get there because you're constantly chasing like one little part. Like, oh, I'm going to be on time, or I'm going to do a little bit less, or I'm going to remember all the stuff I need when I go shopping, or I'm going to food prep. Like you can do these little pieces, but unless you really have that picture of what you want it to all look like, it's really hard to step into it.
Mm. Wow, that makes so much sense that we can choose these pieces and trying to maybe prioritize what's the most important thing for them. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel as I'm learning to calm my system and become a more mindful mama and a more mindful woman, wife, all these pieces, I definitely become a little bit more scattered. Have you heard this at all?
I have, yes, I have. And, sometimes I wonder if that feeling happens because the more in tune you are with what's in your heart, I think it also makes the things that are out of alignment or that are kind of frenzied, it's almost like they pop up even more, or like you notice them, or they happen in a more intense level. So if someone is kind of forgetful by nature anyway, and then they're really tuning in to what's on the inside, some of what they might be forgetful about maybe isn't that important. And before it took up mental space where maybe it doesn't really need to. Um, that's the part that I think is so unique person to person. And it's something to just kind of think about when you start listening to your intuition or listening to your heart, what sort of things around you maybe fall to the wayside, which then in turn, it might make you feel scattered, but maybe it's just because those things don't need to be at the forefront. Maybe it's more important that you're listening to what you're listening to.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's the prioritizing piece again, I feel like that just comes up. Is that
I
kind of the name of the
know.
game?
I think so. And, prioritizing is an executive functioning skill. So if we're just
Mhm.
thinking of, our brains and all the different skills that they have, some people are really good at prioritizing and it just kind of naturally happens. Other people, it's a
Mhm.
real challenge because the brain isn't putting things in any particular order and it's
Mhm.
constant reaction versus responding. And then I think when we are thinking about intuition in our heart, all of that gets kind of muddled if we can't
Mhm.
hear it. So if we can't
Right.
hear what it's telling us, then it makes prioritizing most likely we're doing it incorrectly. Like we're doing it in the wrong order because we're not really listening or
Mhm.
letting that voice kind of guide us. And
Yeah.
that's not easy because we're busy and moms are really busy and
Mhm.
you're running around doing all the things. And I think that has gotten more and more intense over time. And the
Yeah.
expectations of people are putting on themselves. And then
Yeah.
again, feeling bad when they don't get there, which is not what we want to be doing at all.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because it definitely pops me into my head and my mind when my kids are having a rough time. And I tend to forget, like, oh, we forgot your water bottle because we're having a meltdown on the way to school. Yeah, that makes
Exactly,
sense. Yeah,
exactly. And
bringing us
with
back
those
to.
kind of, day-to-day kind of logistics, I'm a huge fan of having multiple things in multiple locations. Like having
Oh,
one set of books at school and one set of books at home, or having, for me, I'll use an example, chapstick. Like I need chapstick. And if I don't have it near me, it makes me grumpy. So when I don't have when I didn't do a good
yeah.
job putting them in multiple locations, so it's kind of trying to figure out how can you take things out of your brain so you don't even have to think about them anymore. So if there's multiple water bottles everywhere or
Mhm.
whatever it is that your child usually forgets,
Yeah.
and you have it stocked up in multiple locations, you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yes.
So, you know, for moms with ADHD, this is harder because if you don't have strategies for yourself yet, it can make it really difficult to be able to implement strategies that are going to work, for your family. And that's where that
Yeah.
shame and guilt part comes in, where it doesn't need to be there. We're all doing the best we can possibly do at any given moment in time with the skill
Mhm.
set that you know. And the great thing is we can make improvements. Like
Yeah.
you can always teach your brain to do new things.
Yeah.
That's not like an end point. We get to keep doing it, which what I love about the work I do.
I love that. I think I'm going to use that saying with my kiddos that we can
Yay.
always, I love that because, yeah, my son, he's starting to pick up like, maybe I am the absent-minded professor. I feel like I haven't ever told him that, but
Right.
the cues that he's starting to say is, Mom, I'm really forgetful and I always lose my things. And so he's starting to kind of notice. So I love that term. And I'm writing down your tips. There's already so many things. I'm like, wow, Tracey, can you come into my house and help me organize? Because
I can. I can.
this is amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard that term, the absent-minded professor,
I
before? Oh
have,
my gosh.
yes, all
Those are
the
your
time.
people.
All the time. Yeah. And I like to kind of think of it as so there, even when somebody has that, persona or it's part
Mm,
of their makeup is to
yeah.
kind of think about, so what areas of your life are you not forgetful? Like there are
Mm,
always areas where you don't forget. Maybe it's your favorite thing you like to do, or it's your child something, their favorite something. I mean, yes, there are kids who still lose that stuff too, or forget to do it, but
mhm,
there's usually one little teeny pocket somewhere that you can use as kind of an anchor, and then think about, okay, well, if you're doing it here, how do we do it in other areas? And it really has
right.
to come from their brain. They need help doing
Mhm.
that, but everyone thinks so differently, and every unique brain can come up with a really good idea. They just need the right questions to get there.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. And do you have any tips for mamas to help us stay grounded as we're trying to get there? I swear, if somebody asks me one more time where their shoes are, or
So walking away is always a good one, in hiding.
hmm Yep.
Thinking about taking deep breaths is probably the number one strategy that I think people talk about it all the time, but it also gets kind of a bad rap of like, I've tried to take deep breaths and it's not doing anything for me. But
hmm
it
Yep.
truly is how you link up to your intuition, is through your
Okay.
breath. So if we
Mm,
can regulate our nervous system and it's built in, like we don't really have to do all that much, like we're breathing. So if
yeah.
we can step away and really like go in the bathroom and close the door and stand there for 1 minute and do a round of box breathing, that's my favorite, where,
hmm
counting in for 4 and pausing for 4, letting it out for 4, and then just having a pause and then repeating it, it completely can reset. It's not going to make you go out there and suddenly everything is solved, but it can make you, it can bring you back to, at least you can think clearly. Because we all stop thinking clearly when we're wound up and amped up ourselves. And
Yeah.
that never helps. And
Yeah.
we're human. So it's also like we're not supposed to be robots. We're not supposed to do it all perfectly, have the solution all the time, have the right answer. It's just not possible.
I love that. It's true because, right, we have the social media inundation of the robot version of
Yes.
parenting. And
It's
those,
so not accurate. It's just not. None of us, it doesn't matter how much you know about tips and
Mhm.
tricks and all sorts of things. It does not mean that you don't get upset, stressed, feel unsure of what to do in a moment, or any of those things.
Yeah, I love that. I love the box breathing too for moms because I always am teaching my kids it, but oh yeah, I forget to use it myself in those moments. So
Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
kind
that.
of like the analogy of like your oxygen mask in an airplane. And I never believed that. I was like, no way, I would not do that. I would take the mask and I would put it on my kids before myself. And then like the more I thought about it year after year, I was like, okay, I mean, I guess if I didn't put it on myself, I won't be able to help them both put it on themselves, because I won't be able to do that. And it just started to shift my thinking of, it's not
Mm,
selfish. And I think that kind of gets ingrained, that if as a mom, you're doing that for yourself, that there's that's not okay. Like you have to sacrifice
yeah,
whatever in that moment to deal with whatever is in front of you, where it's the opposite. Like to be
yeah,
present, you have to give yourself the gift of taking deep breaths.
yeah. I love that so much. My husband and I actually joke about the exact version with the oxygen mask. And whenever we're on a flight, I'm always looking at him. But I'm definitely like, you're going to need to strap the kids in, get yourself, then get the kids because I'll be passed out. Or, trying to get the kids. So, yeah. And I love how society is, we're really shifting into that mindful piece of moms need their oxygen masks and moms can't be the best version of themselves without it. I love that.
Yeah, you just can't. You can't. It's
Yeah.
not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so helpful to think about that because it also comes into the play of the executive functioning skills for myself. If I've lost my oxygen mask, I cannot find my kids' shoes.
No, you won't. As hard as you try, it won't happen. Or you
Mhm.
won't be able to move through that situation in a way that's helpful for
Mhm.
everyone, including yourself. You're so
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And this program that you have for women, it sounds amazing. I love that it goes right along with what society is bringing to us right now. All of this pieces for overstressed families and overstressed moms and women, and I love your program. Does it
Yeah.
make does it make us feel more zen? What does it look like at the end of it?
Yeah, so at the end of it, I think it looks different from person to person, depending just on what they were hoping to get or where they want to be. But what
Sure.
it does is it brings you to a place of really understanding your own brain and mind, and
Mm,
understanding that you can make really teeny tiny shifts in how you think or how you listen to your intuition that have huge impact on your life. There's a lot in the program about thinking about your core values and using that
mm,
as like an inner compass for everything that you do. And when you start doing that, you automatically start shifting.
oh,
You bring more calm and confidence into your life because you're using it as an anchor and a foundation. And you're saying, okay, do I do this or that? Rather than waste mental energy and become overwhelmed, you get to decide, does it connect to that value? Can I take a breath and see how I feel? And then make a decision. And that can take 60 seconds. It doesn't, sometimes our brains think, if I'm going to change, that's like really scary. And oftentimes
mhm,
our subconscious mind wants to just, not that it wants to keep us in an unhappy state, but it keeps us at whatever threshold we've been at because that's all it knows. And anything different, good or bad, is feeling the same way. It's scary and it's a change. So
yeah,
part of this program is helping people understand that and shifting their mindset, leaning into intuition, and
mm,
then learning strategies that work for their brain. So it's not a cookie cutter kind of approach. It's thinking about,
mhm,
okay, this doesn't look like this for anyone else in my family, but here's how it's going to look for me. And here's what I now know I need to do. So
mm.
then in turn, overwhelm lessens and we feel better. So it's
That's
really
great.
fun in a community of people. So people are not feeling in isolation
Mm,
because, like you said, in social media, sometimes portrays like what the things apparently are like for people that look like it's perfect. And it can make people feel so alone and so like, why can't I get there? What's wrong with me? Where
mhm,
that has nothing to do with any of it. And taking a minute to give yourself the gift of just figuring out what you want
yeah.
in your life and for your family and having the strategies to get there, you just feel so much better.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. And I love how you bring in the intuitive component. That's so powerful. I feel like it's the word is spreading and people are really tuning in and it's really been powerful for so many people. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So when you can tap into that, it just eases worry, indecision. It
Mm,
just really pulls all of those things way down. And then when they
yep.
surface, you know that you can come back and take deep breaths, listen to your heart, intuition, and move through it.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. And I was reading about your intuitive background and how you've sort of came to terms with it and learned about it. And did you use it as a parent as well? Have you been using your heart? What does that look like for you?
Definitely. Yes. Yes. And I think um, for me in the beginning, just as a parent, it was hard to like
Yeah.
figure out like what's my intuition and what's like
Mm,
fact or what's overwhelm or what's my heart telling me. It was confusing until I
yeah.
decided, no, my intuition is right and it does tell me the right thing to do. So when I let go of some of the need to control things so that everything would work out a certain way,
Yeah.
parenting became a lot
Mm,
easier because
that's
I was
great.
able to trust in something bigger than myself to guide me, but also that I could listen to it. So it
Mm,
evolved over time,
yeah.
definitely. And
Yeah.
when you become a parent, I think you're just so, I mean, you just love those little people so much. Like you can't
Yeah.
even explain the love you have in your heart. And it can make that intuition get a little muddled, but it's always there. And that's what I love helping people do so that they don't have to lose it for any extent of time. They can keep it with them through parenting. And
Yeah.
it's I always say when I'm working with younger people or a parent will call and say, well, the doctor said I should do this, or the teacher said I should do this, or this person. I'm like, your gut instinct, your intuition
Yeah.
as a parent is going to steer you in the right direction. Like
Mm,
you know deep down inside, and it's okay to listen to that and to explore what it's telling you and take into consideration what other people are telling you. But if it ever feels off, there's a reason why it feels off. And that's
mhm.
the part where you have to pause and think,
Yeah.
which is hard. When you're a parent, it's like your emotions are so, they're so
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Mm,
true. When we get in our emotions and we get into our monkey minds and definitely
yes,
clouds it. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
So in
it
those day
definitely,
to day, yeah.
yeah,
Or as soon as they're asking for their shoes or their water bottle, that's usually
exactly. It goes down a whole other path. Yes, yes,
becomes real. It becomes real.
exactly. Yes.
So
Yep.
do you view yourself as a highly sensitive person, or what's your mindset on that piece?
Yeah, I think I am a
Mm-hmm.
highly sensitive person, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I definitely have always been like that. I think I feel things really, really deeply,
Mm-hmm.
which at some points in my life was overwhelming. Like, what do I
Yeah.
do with all of this like feeling?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and over time, just practicing different things like yoga, like paying attention to when I haven't been out in nature enough, exercise. Um, I removed alcohol from my life a year
Mm.
ago, and that has been like a game changer when it comes to overwhelm for me personally.
Wow.
Um, and getting certified in Reiki was also like a big, like helped all of those things helped me be more in alignment with being highly
Hmm.
sensitive versus like fighting it.
Mm. I love that
Mhm.
so much. We removed alcohol about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago for ourselves. Yeah,
Oh,
as well.
wow.
Yeah, I feel like it really helps us to tune into our hearts so much easier.
Oh my
It's been
gosh. It's
amazing for us.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So it just amps our gifts, which is awesome. I love that. Our
Yes,
superpowers.
it totally does. I agree.
Yeah. And also I studied Reiki as well. And that's what helped me to come back to connecting to my heart as a mom was when I studied Reiki was super
Oh, I'm
helpful.
so
Yes. I
happy.
love that.
It
Yeah.
really makes a
Great
big
paths.
difference. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And I
that's
was
what.
going to ask you what your superpowers are, but I feel like hearing your intuition might be one of them. Would you say
Yeah,
anything different?
I definitely think that that is.
Yeah.
I think that's what it would be. Yeah,
Yeah.
that and listening. I love
Mm,
listening. I
that's
love
great.
listening. I could listen to people to whatever
Yeah.
all day. That's definitely a superpower as well.
Well, that makes sense because that goes with listening to your heart. I can see why you're
Yeah.
in tune. Like you're
Yeah.
you're ready to receive, and that's a powerful thing. Not everybody is there, so that's really
Right.
cool. Sounds like
It's
you're doing the
all a
right thing.
work in progress.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Well, Tracy, is there anything else that you would love to share about your program? I think I'm excited about it. You have something coming up with it. Is that right? A new
Yeah, so I have a workshop coming up in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
which is a workshop all about lessening overwhelm this summer,
Okay.
in 15 minutes or less per day. So it's a like
Okay.
laser focus kind of some things people can do to just feel grounded and not that racing around kind of summer energy that sometimes people get, even though it's supposed to be like you slow down, a lot of times it actually amps up. So that's all about that. And then I'll
Mm,
offer something similar to that in August as
okay.
we just start shifting and thinking about school a little bit. And
Mhm.
then the 3-month coaching program, which is Lessen the Overwhelm Society, that will kick off
Mm,
again, probably around the third week in September. Um,
okay.
yeah, so we have
Wow.
lots going on.
You have a lot of great programs. I love that. And I love the
Yeah,
timeline that you're looking at with school and coming back into play for busy people.
yeah,
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 for sure.
yes.
I wanted to ask you, I
Yeah.
forgot to ask this question
Yeah.
earlier. If sometimes in my family, I ask my family members if they're asking me for where things are, I make them give me a kiss when I find it for them. Is that bad reinforcement?
No, it's funny, I was reading an article the other day and it was talking about hugging, and when you hug,
Mhm.
whoever, 20 seconds or more of a hug produces even
Oh,
more like wonderful feeling neurotransmitters in
oh,
your mind. So you can take that
okay.
into consideration too. A
I,
little extra so
I'm,
everyone can
yeah,
see.
we might have to
That's
adjust
what I
it.
started doing in my family. I'm like,
Okay.
hold on, don't go away.
20 seconds. My son will be timing that so he can get back to his Legos. But
Exactly. It'll be like, okay, enough.
yeah, once they're 9, you have to just hold on to them as they're
Oh
trying
my
to run
gosh,
away.
you do. You so do. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's so great. Is there anywhere that our listeners can find you?
Sure. So I love being on Instagram, which kind of makes me laugh because I never used to go on Instagram and now I find it really fun. So I'm
Yeah.
at Lessen the Overwhelm on
Okay.
Instagram. And then people can visit my website, traceybromleygoodwin.com, and there's freebies
Perfect.
there and resources people can get. And I offer clarity calls. So if anyone's just feeling like, I don't really know where I fit in all of this, I'm more than happy to jump on a call and help people figure out, what their next steps are when they're thinking about lessening overwhelm in their life.
Wow, that's amazing, Tracey. You're giving back so much to so many people. I love it. And helping us all on this path of motherhood or womanhood as well.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with us and meet with us. I really
Thank
appreciate all of
you.
your knowledge.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I'm so glad we get to do it.
Yeah.
If there's a parent that you think this could resonate with, please be sure to share it with them so we can all benefit from each other. Follow Heart to Heart Parents Podcast on Instagram for daily fun ideas and tips. Happy week!